Yeah, good evening again to all of you. And today we commence on the journey, like I always say, explore the unexplored on my book, The Timeless Trails. And I often scribble this message on for people and aspire to communicate to my readers to step on the trails and re-enter the incidents and the storylines, several narrated by local volunteers and guides, yet integral part of the unique history of the palace or the state home or the destination where I've been. Now, so much is available on the internet and the mobile phones. So, what else would you look for in a book when you are going to buy a book? Then, it is the same thing, but I have to add a little more and add a little extra and give it a novel twist. So that's how the Timeless Trails was compiled. I am generally, we are well prepared to reach our destination. Even I may not know about the place from beforehand. So I make a plan well ahead, study the route, know where I'm going, like we are going, Arvind also, because with the internet, you never know, it suddenly stops in the middle of nowhere and you won't know where to go, what to do, and then you have to be dressed up appropriately. You have to look up the weather. You have to know the climate of the place. So I suggest that layering is the best to do and have 2, 3 layers of clothes, carry medicines and carry some snacks also. Though this may happen, the problem of finding food happens sometimes in India, but abroad they are quite well equipped. They always have, mostly have a cafe there, and the internets and the websites are quite updated. So with this vision we set out, and I would first like to tell everybody gathered here that I have divided my entire book into trails subheading, like all the chapters related to palaces, forts, castles will come under the majestic trail. Then the literary trail is a brush with the authors. The reverse trail has monuments or state homes which are steeped in history or have some engrossing history. The spiritual trail, as the name suggests, covers monasteries, churches, temples, gurdwaras, dargahs, or any other spiritual topic. Art trail is mainly related to the arts craftsperson, except there's one trail on it on the Punjab paintings, which is based on my research work in the libraries here in Delhi. I'm a life member at Kalanidhi, the IGNCA, and also the Habitat Library, then the Lalit Kala Academy. So I made notes, and the rest you can go through when you look in the book. Now, there are these, there's one trail that's my favorite, like you were asking me earlier, that's the Mystic Trail. The Mystic Trail is that those destinations where I would like to go back again and again for they have no scientific explanation, which is complete. They do have historical facts, but they seem incomplete to you, and you just want to know about them from people or go there and find out more. And most of the trails one comes across, these people who are called volunteers, and their requisite is, when I'm abroad, their requisite is that they have to be local people. So that they know about the home right from their childhood. So I think that's a point that our Indian government should also try to inculcate and get the local people, and also they are given some material which they have to go through, and they are only a certain one room. They are not asked about the other rooms. I cannot ask them. So they would know everything, about all the artifacts in that room. So this is one tip that, we should pick up in our country also. And while compiling the books, I had multiple objectives. Like everybody's already said, that the primary aim was to persuade the reader to travel on these timeless trails, because they are also journeys of self-discovery. They're exciting, they're invigorating, and it is hoped that you will like these topics, and the readers like to add them to the list of travel, and or plan their trips accordingly, because quite a few trails are from England, and most of us may have visited but never ever thought of going to such places. So that was also my one main objective. And also, like we were discussing previously, that you've been to people, everyone goes to Jaipur, but we do not think of stopping by on the way and turning the car into Viratnagar like both of us did, and finding out the rest, which I'll be coming to later in the chapters. So now I can start with the book. And the first trail here is the Majestic Trail. And I think that I have added the Kapurthala chapters right in the beginning. I've got them at the beginning of my book, because that is like a sense of pride for Indian architecture, which, as we all know, goes through a lot, and we lack the infrastructure. And so I decided that I would put them right in the beginning. The first chapters would be the Kapurthala trails. Also, I wanted to express gratitude to Maharaja Kapurthala. You have the Majestic Trail, where you can see the first three, the Jagatjeet Palace, the Marrakesh Masjid, and the Jagatjeet Club, which is from the Kapurthala Trail. And the next is the Bambara Castle on the coastline of North England, the Hughenden Manor, Disraeli's house, and the Wadsden Manor, which forms the cover of my book, about which we'll speak later. Now, the Majestic Trail starts with my interview with Maharaja Kapurthala, Brigadier Sukhjit Singh Ji, who is one of the most knowledgeable person that we came across. And also he is a simple army man who's been decorated officer, and but still he would send unheard of insights regarding Kapurthala monuments, which I've included in every chapter of the book. Photographs of the monuments, and that time the photography was quite new. So he was kind enough, and that I could choose. And I've included a maximum number of photos from that. So this is one of them. That's his great-grandfather, Maharaja Kapurthala Jagatjeet Singh, from the 18th century era. And he lived life larger, as you say, because he declared the official language of Kapurthala as French. And he believed, he traveled a lot. He traveled a lot, collected artifacts, which are displayed in the Jagatjeet Palace also. And we came across his photographs in many England homes also, because he would travel so much, and wherever he went, then they would want his hand-signed photographs. So that's one from the 1900 catalog. Then this is the Jagatjeet Palace, which was again made by Maharaja Jagatjeet Singh, but for reasons unknown, it's been painted pink. And it's a replica of the Palace of Versailles, because he was so enamored by the French, and he had French lamppost, and everybody was supposed to learn French and speak French in Kapurthala. So not just this palace, there are many more, which are replicas of monuments outside India. So a little bit about the Kapurthala dynasty that found by Baba Jassa Singh Sahab Ahluwalia. This is then the next trail, I'll quickly shift, would be to the Shahi Samaj, What you see on the screen is a 1900 photograph of the red sandstone Shahi Samaj. Um, and now they look, this is a newer photograph, and this is the latest, which are like, okay, well kept, but not, they could have been better. You know, they could have been well maintained, and it's hard to walk through the grass. Um, and then I tried to cover as many monuments as possible, and we shift the trail to Japanch Mandir, which is one of the oldest monuments in Kapurthala. And here I would like to just relate a story about the Panch Mandir, which is dedicated to Krishna. And I questioned the Maharaja Sahib that, um, is it for secular reasons that you had this temple made? So he said, no, my ancestors, Maharaja Fateh Singh was a Krishna devotee, and his samadh is in Vrindavan. Now, this is a fact that even the local people in Punjab, not many people know about. So he was kind enough to send me in writing an email, which I've included in the book also. And this is the state Gurdwara, which was again made with the red sandstone. But now, as we have to keep them white. So the new Gurdwara is painted white. It does not look like this anymore. And this is the Marrakesh Masjid, which is a complete replica of the Moroccan Masjid of Marrakesh. And this has been redone recently, so we see the fresh paint, and it's kept okay, like well enough for visitors to go and look around. And this is the time, it's a very historic photo, which he has lent to me, which is 1 lakh people gathered for the opening of the mosque. And the Nawab of Bahawalpur was also the chief guest. So those were the time, and these are the time when hardly anybody ever goes there. This is the trail to the Darbar Hall as it looked in the 1900 AD, and as it looked quite recently, the lower photograph. But now it's been renovated, and the interiors have been done, and but it's not open to public anymore. Perhaps they are going to make a policy about it, regarding it. And the next trail in Kapurthala leads to the tomb of Mir Nasir Ahmad, who was a descendant of Tansin. You know, when the Mughal dynasty disintegrated and the British came, then the artists did not know where to go. So most of them migrated to the kingdoms of Rajasthan, Punjab, and because at least they had a patronage there. So Mir Nasir Ahmad found the Kapurthala Gharana, and his tomb is still there. And this is the Mazar of Pir Chaudhry, quite an important place to visit because he was the chief benefactor of the Kapurthala royals. And he would just guide them on what to do when. And it's still quite a visited place there. This is the Jagatjeet Club, which is again a takeoff of the Acropolis in Athens. And this is how it's been painted now, which I do not know if it's nice or not. And this is the Elysee Palace from 1862, which was in 300 acres of land. But unfortunately, it's been given to a school now, and the interiors are all gone. This is the Kanchli Lake and the wetland, which was famous for the environment, and you can see the barrage in the background. And today, to take this photograph, we had such a difficult time because it's overgrown with hyacinths, and also dirt and garbage is floating in it. So my hope to do the trail was that while I was doing it, quite a few of the monuments started getting renovated, especially as we saw the Marrakesh Masjid and the Darbar Hall. And also this is being cleaned up by Baba Sichiwal, if anybody's heard of him. He does a lot of work to remove the garbage from the lakes and clean them up. So next, we jump over the continents to go to the Bambara Castle, which is a 12th century castle on the fort on the seaside. And this particular photograph has been taken from the other side of the Bambara Castle, which is the across the sand dunes. We both walked, and believe me, it was one of the most challenging walks of my life to walk when there was no proper track. But there's some magic about it that you just want to do it and reach the sea on the other side, where the sea seems to merge with the coastline, with the horizon. And this is another photograph which we took outside because, yes, I must mention that this is the ancestral home of the Armstrong family who live here. And also from this, I would like to draw the attention of the authorities that, the government has set up activity center here. The schools, colleges, professors and teachers are welcome, and even visitors on some particular days to come and help in the digging of finding coins and finding relics. And it's such an ancient fort with so much history. So if we could do that on our forts, then it would draw more people and would help to, that money could be used for the maintenance. This is the Huenton Banner, which is the house of the British Prime Minister, the Jewish Prime Minister, supported totally by Queen Victoria Disraeli. And the house is amazing from inside, though it may look like simple from outside. It's actually a 13th century structure which has been preserved, and especially his library of 4,000 books is worth a visit. And then the next photograph, in the next photograph, I've tried to put his bedroom also, along with what happened to it 100 years later, when it was just not being used, but not many people knew about it. And during the World War II, this was on Hitler's search list because Britain and the Allies made all the maps here. All the mapping was done here. And I tried to make a collage so that I can put as many photos, and how well it was used and never discovered throughout the war. So now we come to the photograph of the Wadston Manor, which forms the cover of my book. This is the front of the manor, and the manor is famous for its art and paintings collection, which is equivalent to Buckingham Palace and to Windsor Castle. Most of us would just go and visit those and not know about places which have bigger and better collections as well. And they are the Rothschilds, are close friends with the British royals. And for example, the first visit, which was many years back when Prince William got married, a whole flower bed was made with the names of William weds Catherine, like that. So they are very close to them, and they maintained it well with the help of the National Trust. And this is the photograph at the back. And as I was just discussing earlier, that we went there, especially in April, to get this photograph done, because this is the only time where the tulips are around. And they keep changing the gardens as the year progresses. And this is another photograph to show the terraced gardens. So now we jump over to the literary trail, where you can see Charles Dickens' birthhouse, the Stoneleigh Abbey, Shakespeare's birthplace, which maybe some of you have visited, and Windermere in Lake District. But I'm going to connect it to the literary trail and William Wordsworth's last house, the Rydal Mound. So this is Shakespeare's birthplace, which is otherwise is just a house in a street, had it not been turned into a museum, and so quiet that neighbors are not getting disturbed, but hundreds of visitors are coming and going every day. And this is the birthroom of Charles Dickens, and there is the cradle behind it, which is, I have a clearer photograph in the book. And this is the attic where all his memorabilia is kept and his books are kept, and people are welcome to, that is interaction. You know, then people are welcome to come and sit there and get their photographs done. And so that's what one really looks forward to going there, interacting, and finding your own corner. Then we move over to the Stoneleigh Abbey, which was a monk's abbey till the dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VIII. And so it was whoever came here, some deaths followed, and it was believed to be cursed. It's the same in England also, like we have inhibitions and we have superstitions. So it lay empty till Jane Austen's maternal uncle was allotted this. And so this also became an interesting Jane Austen trail. And if anybody of you have gone through her books, then she has used the location of the Stoneleigh Abbey in many of her books, especially Persuasion and Mansfield Park. And this is the library that she visited regularly with her parents, with her mother and her sister. And the highlight is the Coromandel rosewood from South India. So I took the photograph. And then we move on to the 450-year-old birthplace of William Shakespeare. And not just this, I must add that there are many more homes that are related to him. Like there's a house opposite, which was his friend's house and who formed the Harvard University later on. And one can just walk through the streets and discover new things. Not just look at this and think that, oh, I've done it. So this is his last resting place, and coinciding that he was baptized here also. So when he was born, he was baptized in the Holy Trinity Church, and that's his last resting place. And also his other home, which he bought, the Nash home, is also there only in this area. So now we jump to the next trail. I'm rushing because there's so much. So now we come to this trail in Lake Districts, about Lake Windermere, which is believed to be 13,000 years ago when the glaciers melted. So all the lakes in the Lake District were formed, and many of you may have visited them. But I'm trying to link them to the literary trail because so many authors have some link with them, especially William Wordsworth. And this is the pub in the Hole in the Wall pub, where Charles Dickens visited it in the 19th century, though this is a very old pub from the 17th century. But years later, he came there, and he also wanted to go because of the stories and the events that are attached to it. And by the way, it's a good place for the Indians to go because whoever is non-vegetarian, the chicken tikka masala was their main dish. We discovered that. And this is the second home of William Wordsworth. This is the first home, but as the family grew, then he moved to the final home, the Rydal Mount. And also, it would be appropriate to mention the scientist and the writer Beatrix Potter, the famous Peter Rabbit that children love, the lovable Peter Rabbit figure. And she also wrote those 23 fables about children. So there's a whole Beatrix Potter Center one can walk through, and a house also, which is going to be included in my next book. So now we reach the Mystic Trail, and on the screen you can see the Bhimbetka Caves entrance, the Castle Rig stone circles, the Taplow Court, and again the Virat Nagar. So we start the trail with the Bhimbetka entrance, which has got like hundreds of caves there. And they have artwork. The rock artwork is from the old Stone Age to the new Stone Age, and but only. Oh yes, it's in Madhya Pradesh. It's in Madhya Pradesh. Yes, that's most important. Because we have jumped continents again. We've jumped continents again, and this is in Madhya Pradesh, and now there are 550 have been discovered with rock art, but we visitors are only allowed 12. So you can imagine how much art would be there in the rest of the caves. It is unimaginable. And this is one of the caves which is called the Auditorium Rock. So if you go close, and you can look at the book also, then each and every wall is filled with rock art and how they got the color in the old Stone Age, new Stone Age. And also you can trace the history there because we came across some paintings when the horses were introduced in India, which means it must have been from a later age. There were no horses in India till they came from the Middle East. So those things are fascinating, and it has no religious symbols there, except one trident is there, which could be the Trishul, but not nobody knows about it. So this is, now we again go back to England, to the stone circles, and these are again in the Lake District, the Castle Rig stone circles, which is on the top of a plateau and which is surrounded by hills, mountains on all the sides. And it's quite a mystery to understand that who made them, who took the stones up there and why they made them. So maybe they were used for rituals, and they have been here again since the Stone Age. And also they become very busy during the solstice. The 21st June, the longest day, and some rituals are performed here, and even they have people who follow the rituals called druids, and the druids just assemble there, and the government allows them to some extent to come and camp there and do their rituals. So that's why it's the Mystic Trail. And that's another photograph of the 4,500-year-old stone circles. So now we come back to India, to the kingdom of Viratnagar, near Alwar, Sariska, which is, I call it the lost kingdom of Virat from Mahabharat, because the Pandavas stayed here during their Agyatwas. And this is the prehistoric, the Mahadev Dungri Ganeshgiri temple in Viratnagar. And if you could notice carefully, the dots on the rock are pigeons actually. And the priest here told us that the Ganesh there was a Swayambhu, which is it came on its own, and this temple is believed to have been visited by Krishna and the Pandavas, and also by Emperor Ashoka much later, of course, when the Buddhist monasteries were built here. It is believed, according to legends, that the first Rath of the Kurukshetra war came out from Viratnagar, as Krishna suggested to Arjun to get Abhimanyu married to the king of Viratnagar's daughter. So these are all legends, and one has to go there, explore, and find out yourself. And this is the second part of the chapter, which is a Buddhist monastery. The remains have been unearthed, and one can just walk up there, and it's called Bijak Ki Pahadi. And in the background, you can see far away, there's a rock formation of what looks like an iguana. But that's a natural rock formation. Nobody's ever made it. And here also they say that Ashoka had come here as well. And this is a close-up of the iguana with the tail and the face in the front. And most of the rocks here are fascinating because you can even find like huge skull-looking rocks. And the whole area is fascinating. And as we walked up, then the village people would keep telling you that, there are leopards here, so be careful. But one can just, then I think that government should just develop these for us Indian tourists, because it's on the way to Jaipur, and Alwar is close by, and so is Sariska Wildlife Sanctuary. So people can visit. And this is the Ashoka's rock edict. He had done lots of edicts on the rocks, and they were kept in the museum, but there's one here. So now we move on to the next trail, again across the continents back to England, to the Stonehenge stone circles, which have any of you ever visited? I know that, but I just thought that it had to be there once in the Mystic Trail. And this is the biggest wonder, I'll think. Not just mathematical wonder, is it scientific wonder? Because nobody can understand how these stones were carried up there and why some of them are hot, some of them are cooler. So these are the mysteries. And this is a lone heel stone, which is believed to be formed from the heel of the devil. And today it's called the Sunrise Point because tourists can get the photographs done there. And also in the ancient times, all the rituals and the processions that went up to River Avon nearby would start from here. This was the starting point. So that's the whole mystery. So what you see now is the Taplo Court, which is the Soka Gakkai Buddhist organization headquarters presently, though it has been lived in by lords and earls previously. And also it is an important place because it has history since Iron Age. And there's a Tappa's mound there who was an Anglo-Saxon warrior. And so maybe that was the reason that it got a reputation of being haunted, and nobody ever lived here till the Buddhist organization came forward and they formed the UK headquarters there. And this is the fabulous library inside, where this is the Lotus Sutra, facsimile copy, of course. And all the bookshelves are full of Ramayans and of Mahabharata written by different authors, whether they are Indian or they could be British or any nationality. And then we moved on to this room, which I'm sure was part of the previous lords and earls who lived there, their drawing room. But today, it's maintained by the Harrods. By the Harrods group for the maintenance the Soka Gakkai Society has given to them, because these things are really hard to maintain. The wallpaper and the chandeliers and everything is kept intact as it was centuries ago. So next trail is to the British Roman city of Verulamium, which goes back to 54 BC. The Romans just came to England and they just took over entirely. And this was a Celt city. Celts are the original black hair inhabitants of Britain. So the Anglo-Saxons and the others came later, but the Romans came first. So they have a Roman theater and they have recreated it, this is the entrance. And that's the amazing Verulamium Museum with touch screens. You could just touch a screen and a person would come there and introduce himself and say that he's so-and-so from the Roman Empire and would take you through a visual tour. How can you get bored with something like that? So each and every part of the Roman Empire has been recreated here. So now on our recent trip in January, Arvind and I decided to go there and present a copy of the book, which has many more photographs. And they asked me to come inside and pose in front of the mosaic floor, which has been unearthed about 2,000 years ago. So that's the photograph of Abhishek and me walking up to this house, which is, sometimes you cannot take photographs, it's not allowed. to the house which had flooring in 2000 years before, which was heated because they had under the floor heating. And the mosaic floor never got damaged. It remains intact. And it is the most exquisite mosaic, which you may not even see now. So now we move on to the reverse trail, which is primarily about places which have engrossing history with them or are steeped in history. And right at the top is the head of the goddess Solis Minerva from the Roman baths, the Nuffield house. Again, now, as I said, everyone's been to Paris, but one should try and look for something different. That's the French Senate and the garden, and that's the Maharaja's well. So we started our trail with the Nuffield house, which is Lord Nuffield's house, who was a bike mechanic, and he developed the Morris motors, the famous Morris motors. And he really worked on them, and he was also a very big philanthropist. He would often donate to the Oxford University later on in life, when he was given this house, and also bestowed the title of Lord. So maybe I think people should try and visit this. And this is a very interesting photograph of the cupboard of his bedroom. There were no clothes in the room, in the cupboard. There were only tools, because he had insomnia and he would work on the tools at night and created that empire of Morris Motors. And this is his billiards room, and there's an exercise cycle there. Plus, it's just like any room that, you know, one of us would have in a house. So that's what's nice about it. The chess table has been left as it is, and even his cigar box was there. And the next trail leads one to the Maharaja's well, which is a very unusual name for a well in England. But then the next photograph may explain that that's Maharaja of Banaras, Maharaja Ishri, who was very good friends with Edward Reed, who was in India, was pre-Independence Day story. And he would tell him that we have a lot of shortage of water in our village, Stokrow, which is near Oxford. And people dig pits to drink water, and they would just drink from there. So the Maharaja offered him a solution that in India we have wells. Why don't you dig a well? And he said that we don't have the means to do it. So the Maharaja suggested that, you should have an orchard next to it. We always have a mango orchard. So when you sell the mangoes, we get the maintenance money to look after the well. So there they put a cherry orchard. And the rest you'll have to read. So this is now we come to the last trail, which is the art trail of Sanghaner craftsperson, the potters at Bishnoi village, the Padar Haveli, and again how the cloth is dried. We never think when we're wearing block printed clothes that cloth is washed and dried like this. That's again Sanghaner. And the first two are my research-based write-up on the Punjab paintings, because not much has been ever written about them. So this, on the screen you see the photograph of Maharaja Ranjit Singh ji meeting Rais Sadhu Singh of Kartarpur Killa. And they were kind enough to lend me the paintings for the publication, which is also a big task in India. You have to go through a lot to publish something, the copyrights and meeting people, and takes ages, and the book gets delayed. And this is how the Killa Koti looks now. One could just visit the Gurdwara next to it, which was created by Guru Arjan Dev Ji. And the original Sheesh Mahal fell during a stormy, rainy night. And this is a very unique painting that I came across of a shikar scene when the British officer is being attacked by the lion, and their ancestor is rescuing him. Then we move on to the Bishnoi village. I call them the magical weavers and potters, and they have found, the weavers and potters of India. There's mention of them in Rig Ved also, and also in the poetry they are compared to Brahma and to Vishnu. And so I basically go there to highlight them, to highlight their cause, talk to them, and then take my own photographs. And to know that everybody should know that this is a Raf Lorraine Dari. And like what prize he must be getting for it. And it is being done in a village in back of Beyond, which has only solar connection to it. And there is no Pakka road to go there. I do not know of the very recent happening, but when we went, there was only one Kacha road, and these are the conditions they work in. So this is very interesting because this young boy had a card machine, and now many people have, but this is like quite an old photograph, and that time it was big thing. They also want to keep connected and sell their stuff. And they had an album in which there was a photograph of Warren Buffett buying from there, Michelle Obama, and quite a few of our chief ministers and celebrities. So they take photograph and they put in the album, and whenever somebody goes there, then they show it to them. And this is the Padar Haveli, which is, there's 1,000 square feet of paintings here. You could just keep looking, and if any of you has ever been there, isn't it amazing? You just think that, how much can I see? And you cannot see it all in the first time that you go there. And they're unique paintings, and there's this British colonial art also, with them traveling in a train, but there'll be a parrot. And there are, of course, this is very interesting, the manifestations of the goddess, and lots of other paintings in each and every room. And mostly all the colors used here are vegetable colors, or they are made from crushed stones. Now we move on to the last trail, which is the rainbow colors of Sanganer, I call it, because in the arid desert, these are the only colors you see. And also please notice that how they are done and how much they are sold for, and these workers have to work with basic condition, and they're only buckets. These are plastic buckets without handle. And the colors are made there. And it is believed that Saraswati once flowed through that area, and the block printed and the screen printed cloth was all washed in the water of the Saraswati river to lend the extra sheen. Though it's true or not, we do not know. And this was the ancient kingdom of Matsya Desh. Like every kingdom had an old name in Sanskrit. If you look up the net also, you can look at the old India map. So this is the story that they told us, and I thought I must mention it. And this is how they work, and it takes days to print any piece of cloth. And this is the screen printing, which is not one person can do because two are required. The table is so big. And this is how the cloth is washed and then dried so that it does not become dirty. So with this I come to an end of my my journey, the present journey, though I do a blog, and which has all my newer articles, and because a book takes some time to publish, and I'll be coming out with another book. So I hope you all have enjoyed.